Hi, my name's Deanna Guttman.
And I'm Ethan Barclay-Ennew.
And welcome to Needles on the Net, the official podcast of Needles in the Hay, a lovely little yarn shop in downtown Peterborough, Ontario. I'm the owner of the store. Ethan is my right-hand man here at the store. And I just took over actually at the end of 2016. So Needles in the Hay has been open since 2010. And it was originally started by Bridget Allen. And she's since moved on to other things in her life. And I picked up the store here. And we're just in a growth stage right now. And this
to say the least.
Yeah. So this podcast is kind of the next step in us reaching out to you guys. So we just like to tell you a bit about the store philosophy.
So we focus on natural fiber. We have several flagship brands, including Brooklyn Tweed and the Fiber Co. And we focus on carrying things of high value at 3 basic price points, a low, a medium, and a high. So there's always something to come in and find to knit here in all natural fiber whenever you're looking to start a project.
When you come into the store, you're going to see a wall, floor to ceiling, of beautiful natural fiber yarns, and you're going to see Ethan and I, as well as Grace Mahoney, who is here as well on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and we're here to help you steward your project from beginning to end. So we'll help you pick out your yarn,
choose colors, find a great pattern, help you find the needles and tools that you need to complete the project as painlessly as possible.
And we'll be the shoulder to cry on if there.
We're always here to help you.
If there is a little bit of pain. So we'll just tell you a little bit about ourselves as knitters. I personally haven't actually been knitting that long. I've been knitting for about 3 years now. It's my 3-year knitiversary. Most back in it is January still. Most people find that shocking, but it's because as a person, like when I find something that I love, I become completely obsessive about it, and it's about getting better and stronger and faster. So I knit like multiple hours every night, and I'm huge into sweater knitting and cables. Those are kind of my 2 big things. Especially cables, yeah. I have three sweaters on the needles right now, and a brioche wrap. Actually, 2 brioche wraps. Ethan has convinced me that brioche is the way of the future.
Brioche is the way of the future. So I'm Ethan again. I've been knitting since I was 4. My great-grandmother taught me, and then my grandmother and mother have helped me a lot throughout my life. I kind of took a big break from knitting until high school, where I started and continued a knitting club at my local high school here in Peterborough called St. Pete's. And then the store here opened when I was about 20, and I came in, and the previous store owner very good-naturedly bullied me into knitting a shawl. And I was pretty much hooked after that. It kind of got out of control really fast. A year after I came back to knitting, I knit Timberline from Brooklyn Tweed, and then that was kind of all she wrote. It's just been an obsession with sweaters ever since. I also have 2 sweaters on the needles right now, 2 brioche wraps, and a cabled hat. So I knit a lot also.
I think it's worth mentioning too that Needles in the Hay has a very high timberline per capita.
The highest, I think.
How many timberlines have come out of this store?
I think we're up to 7.
Yeah.
And there's an 8th on the needles almost completed now.
This podcast is going to talk about things like what we carry in the store, what's new in the knitting community,
new trends, new techniques, new magazines.
Exactly, and also we're going to have a virtual knit-along segment, which we will get to at the end of this podcast. So we hope you enjoy, and thanks for tuning in.
We'll talk to you soon. In this segment, we're going to talk about a few of our favorite things in the store. So one of the great things about working in a yarn store and owning a yarn store is that we get access to some of the most fun tools and yarn on the market at all times. So we thought we would share a few of them with you. Recently, we've gotten in these great little tool and project pouches, and if you're a knitter like I am, you carry 1,200 extra things with you at all times, just in case of any emergency. You never know when you're going to need 7 stitch holders, 2 different sizes of needles, a ball of waste yarn,
Yeah.
several sizes of crochet, you get the picture. So I carry a lot of stuff with me, and oftentimes it's really frustrating because most pouches are narrow on the bottom and sewn flat, but this guy actually has a flat bottom. So it stands up on its own, and I can just paw through it and find whatever I need. Plus it has adorable foxes. And the cutest little fox charm is the zipper pull. The best part is that if you're not super into foxes, it comes in 2 other prints. So there's the fox print, a great gray squirrel print, and an awesome green squirrel print, all of which are pretty fun.
I think we've heard a rumor lately that foxes aren't as cool as they once were, and we beg to differ.
We do beg to differ. What about you?
Well, I've got these adorable little stitch tins. These are made, whoops, that's upside down. These are made for NNK Press. By Firefly Notes in Richmond, BC, and it's oh my god, it wasn't even upside down. Okay, more coffee required.
Yeah.
So they are vintage images on top of these little sort of matchbox tins that have hand poured resin over top, and this sheep one here is like a knit kit. So if you open it up, it comes with a case of like T-pins and removable and circular stitch markers, and there's actually a magnetized bottom as well so that your stuff doesn't go flying around everywhere, and there's plenty of room in there to put all of your little doodads and gizmos.
Yeah.
And then we also have these cute tiny little bird ones. So this one is a bluebird, and it has the ring stitch markers in it. So again, you just slide it open like a little match tin.
Brass?
Yes.
Ooh.
They're gorgeous, and I like them specifically. We were just talking about how, has anybody ever had that problem where you're just like knitting up a storm
And the stitch markers are kind of flat.
and they just go off of your needle? So yeah,
and then inevitably your cat eats it. Like,
yeah. So these don't do that really, like, because they've got the nice rounded edge on them and everything.
So much
They
better.
slip really easily from one needle to the next. I'll just slide that back on there. Hopefully, there we go. And then this one has the removable stitch markers. It's a little cardinal. And they're just like these cool little circular safety pin style ones. So they're a little bit different than your usual kind of locking style stitch marker.
A little old fashioned.
I like how they have kind of this circular bulb on the end. It just makes it so that it will sit nicely on your needle, and the clippy part will just hang down out of the way.
I really like them too because they're easy to find when you leave them in. If you're measuring to a certain point, they're super easy to find again and take out.
And plus, like, super adorable. These are pretty.
They're so cute. And the little tins fit inside of the big one. You can fit one big one, one little one into the big one.
I didn't even try that.
That's how I have mine crammed into my kit.
So Ethan and I have been working with this stuff for the last 2 weeks, and it's become like an essential part of our.
I don't know what I would do without it now.
Of our kits, it's been merged into our lives.
Yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
Now, lastly, we have a really exciting yarn pack in the store that we both want to talk about, some of our favorites. So these are from Sweet Georgia, these big giant kits. It's 6 skeins of the Tough Love sock. They're made originally for the Free Your Fade shawl pattern.
What the fade?
What the Fade shawl pattern.
Sorry, there's so many fades. Thank you, Andrea Mowry.
Yeah, I just get a little confused. However, I actually picked this kit, which is Vesuvio, which is super fun. It has a lot of some of my favorite colorways from Sweet Georgia in it, and I really think that this kit's well suited to make a speckle and pop shawl from Stephen West's most recent mystery knit along. Although I should pre-admit that I'm a little bit of a West head.
So I think maybe we should like take the yarn out of the bag here, because I see that there's a bit of glare on them.
Set them free.
Set them free. So these are like specially curated by Sweet Georgia.
Ooh.
Look at you, you're all dexterous, getting your yarns up in the air.
Sorry, I can advantage.
So did you already mention that these are named after famous cafes?
No,
from
I
TV
forgot.
shows?
We know where Deanna's is from because it's the Peach Pit and we were alive in the 90s. So
90210. So this is Peach Pit. I love this, and like one of my personal favorite color combinations is purple and orange. So this is like the kit made in heaven for me. Purple and orange are awesome complementary colors, and I just love the way this fades from the yellow to the Empress purple. And I think while this kit is designed for the Wet the Fade shawl, I think this would make a beautiful find your fade.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I think that's how I would use it.
That's totally a good plan.
Myself. And then this is a great value too, because you're getting 6 skeins of Sweet Georgia Tough Love stock, which is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon. It's one of the best stock yarns in the business.
Hand dyed in Vancouver.
Yeah, hand dyed in Vancouver. Felicia Lowe's, awesome company.
Totally.
And it's one of our best sellers here in the store. But there's enough here to make multiple shawls.
Multiple shawls, or even a really gorgeous sweater.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Fade sweater. And you basically get 1 skein for free when you buy the whole kit. That's how it's priced.
And we're going to include a promo code for the kits that you can put in. It's going to be Fade Kit for 10% off on the website ordering one of the full-size kits from us.
So that's at needlesinthehay.ca, and it's Fade Kit. So this segment is called Ethan and Deanna's Excellent Knitting Adventure. A little bit of a 90s riff on Bill and Ted. Just for fun. Just for fun. So I'm going to turn it over to Ethan to just start the discussion on what the segment is actually about and how we got there, because it's a little bit his brainchild to begin with here.
So this segment is going to be a online advanced virtual knit along and a blog and a segment here on the podcast every month where we knit something crazily challenging and difficult for the pure enjoyment of difficult knitting. It started when the Brooklyn Tweed Winter 18 collection was released, including Noragon's beautiful cardigan Geiger. So the Geiger cardigan came out and I was immediately obsessed, and it's a little difficult to see in the small picture, but you can check it out on Ravelry and on the Brooklyn Tweed website and see why we were so instantly smitten. I talked obsessively about it for about 2.5 weeks until I infected Deanna with the Geiger bug. And then
it's a little bit of brainwashing.
Yeah, a little bit of Stockholm syndrome. Yeah. I've read a lot of books, so I just applied the knowledge. And then it kind of grew into this podcast segment idea where we would knit something together as kind of professional sports for knitters so that you guys can knit vicariously through us if you want.
And Ethan and I get like this ridiculous amount of pleasure from just conquering some of the most difficult patterns out of there. It's like how we validate ourselves as
knitters,
as super knitters.
It's a pretty good time. So we're starting off, as we said, with Geiger by Noragon. It is a elaborately cabled Tyrolean style jacket cardigan. I know that's quite the mouthful. Don't worry, it only gets worse. We are knitting it in the suggested yarn, Arbor, and I'm going to turn it over to Deanna to talk about why we're using Arbor for this project and why we love Arbor so much.
So I started knitting with Arbor a while ago when I knit Jared Flood's Svensson pullover, and that was actually before we became a Brooklyn Tweed destination store. And the thing that struck me about it right away is like it's simple, sophisticated. It is basically like the most perfect 100% wool DK weight. What really hit me was that it had such a springy texture to it. The 3-ply of the Targhee wool is like one of the bounciest products I've ever knit with, and it's so satisfying. It does whatever you want. The stitch definition is absolutely beautiful. It just sings in textured and cable stitches, and the gauge is super flexible, and it also has a gorgeous palette.
Yeah, really beautiful, especially in darker tonal colors, which is frequently hard to find in a lot of yarn out there. You'll find a beautiful array of pastels and jewel tones, but The darks tend to be really like a dark gray, a dark black, and a dark brown, where this one has a whole subtle nuanced palette of darks and lights in the neutrals.
And we've got, I think, 22 colors
Yeah.
of arbor here in the store right now. And ever since I knit that fence and pullover, I've been knitting all kinds of things, and I've cast on Charlie.
Yeah, I made the High Pines cowl.
I did the bevel scarf for the sample from the Brooklyn Tweed winter collection, and it just makes my heart sing to knit with this yarn. And maybe we're going on about Brooklyn Tweed a little bit too much, but we also really love Brooklyn Tweed's sheep to skein philosophy. So you just feel really good about knitting with their yarns. You know where the wool comes from, how it was raised,
How
where
it was dyed.
Yeah.
Which is a really nice feeling.
And that it's not over processed.
Yeah. So one of the big things about this pattern that we really love is the designer Nora Gone. So for those of you who don't know her very well, Nora used to be the head designer for Baracco, and she joined Brooklyn Tweed, which was probably one of the most exciting events I don't want to admit in my life, but the truth is in my life.
Did you have like a knitting overload
I had a
moment?
knitting geek overload moment when I found out this was happening. And I pretty much jumped in right away, and I knit Nora Gone's chain link pullover about 6 months after it was released. So like I'm obsessed, it's okay. She is a masterful avant-garde knitting designer who comes up with the most challenging and unique ways to knit things, and she's just a cable master. Like, it's so intuitive and interesting to knit her cables, and they're oftentimes built out of very simple crosses that turn out literally the most elaborate looking cables I've ever seen. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty fun process. So about that, we do also really love how Brooklyn Tweed writes patterns. So the combination of Nora's skill and Brooklyn Tweed's pattern writing skills has really opened up the world of like difficult knitting to even more knitters, because the patterns make a lot of sense. They're very logically planned out from beginning to end. It kind of shepherds you through the process of knitting the garment. So it takes you through the swatch and everything, and almost all the special techniques, which there are a lot of in a lot of Brooklyn Tweed patterns, especially in a Nora Gone pattern. You're going to be dealing with a lot of stuff you haven't seen before. They're all included in the pattern, so it's an all-in-one resource to get to the final object.
And I think that you and I both credit Brooklyn Tweed a little bit for making us the knitters that we are today.
I'm a much better knitter because I've consistently tackled difficult Brooklyn Tweed projects. It's taught me a lot about knitting and a lot about my knitting skill.
And I love how a Brooklyn Tweed pattern will really just show you the way to make the best possible finished object. They don't cut corners on techniques and things. They'll try to push you out of your comfort zone and do it the best looking way possible, but they'll also recognize that maybe you don't want to put all of that effort into the tubular cast on, and give you different, methods for casting on, and give you some options and how you want to do things.
Exactly. And what I do really love is that their garments are designed to last. Like smart seaming, great reinforcement, and all those sorts of things are a part of the package, so you never knit something and worry that it's going to stretch out of shape like 3 weeks later.
And this Geiger is going to last forever, I think.
This Geiger is going to last forever.
Knit out a nice, solid, tight gauge,
Most people swatch before they knit a sweater, and we kind of do a version of that where we swatch with a sleeve. Now, I'm going to admit that I got a little overambitious. So these are our sleeve swatches to this point on our Geiger sweaters. I'm gonna let Deanna zoom in first. Woo! Three-dimensional cats up in here. And then there's my little beauty. My arms are longer so I can get closer to the camera.
Not fair.
So, interesting things about this. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this cast-on process?
Yeah, so it's like typical Nora, like an interesting cast on. So the sleeve and possibly the body as well, I haven't checked yet, starts with this kind of modified 1x1 rib cable cast on. So you knit on a rib cable cast on, and then you do a couple of tubular cast on rows after that. And then you kind of break into setting up the rib for the bottom of the sleeve. So
this banana pants rib.
Yeah, yeah, it's a gorgeous rib. So that was a new one for us. So we both
a unique experience.
We have both done the tubular cast on many times, as well as the rib cable cast on. Both
a personal favorite.
We both love both techniques, but we have never done them
together.
So thank you, Nora, for pushing us out of our cast on box.
Yeah. But it makes a really beautiful, like, textured edge, but it's just as stretchy as a tubular cast on. So it's a really interesting, like, it's decorative but also functional, and I think that's what I love about it.
Yeah, because you've got what I was telling Ethan about a little bit earlier. It's interesting because you have this kind of 2x2-ish rib pattern, but you have this cast on edge that doesn't necessarily match up with the rib. And I think that it's supposed to be a special design element that maybe ties into the picot
bind off on the
style bind off on the button band. So that's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Something new to try.
The ribbing felt like it flew by for me. Like, I kind of sneezed my way through it, if you will. And then the cabling, which, like, I went a little nuts because the cabling was so enjoyable to do. But, like, I think we can agree, it is satisfying. If you like a cable that makes you feel like you've really knit something, this chain of cables is the thing to make your eyes light up. It's pretty magical to knit.
Yeah, looks great, and I've never seen anything quite like it before on any other pattern.
No.
You know, a lot of cabled sweater patterns are kind of like rearrangements of the same old
It's a lot of, like,
motifs,
Aran sweaters.
which is why we love Nora so much, because she always seems to come up with something that you've never done before.
Even if it doesn't always make sense or, you know, turn out, you're always getting something different.
And we'll just talk a little bit about the sleeve swatch too. So Ethan touched briefly about how we would recommend swatching, of course, for a sweater. And we sometimes take a bit of a shortcut. Or maybe we're not giving ourselves enough credit on that. Yeah, because what I have started doing a while ago for a couple of reasons is starting a sleeve as a swatch. Instead of doing your regular, you know, square swatch. And there's a few reasons for that. Casting on a sleeve is not that onerous. It's not like you cast on 200 stitches for the body and that you're, you know, working through and then you'll be upset if you have to pull them out. Yeah, you know, casting on 50 stitches or whatever is not that
big deal.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal. And then you can use that to sort of practice the pattern, measure out that gauge, and that gets you a little bit ahead, and it gets you the opportunity to see how the pattern is going to work out before diving right into the back.
Yeah, agreed. And, like, especially with this pattern, because each section you're working off of more than one cabling chart. Like, in theory, you should really make about 4 swatches. That's the truth. Like, looking at the sweater, you should probably swatch 4 times, especially if you're not as confident in your gauge. We both knit quite a bit with Arbor by this point, so we really knew what was going to happen when we started knitting with it. So we were a little ahead out of the gate.
because we have a little bit of a love affair.
Yeah, we're a little yarn drunk
with Arbor.
Yeah.
And the other thing I love about doing sleeves first, if the construction will allow it, is just like a psychological plus.
Yes.
So if you knit both your sleeves first, then when you finish the body, you just have this moment where you're like, the sleeves are done.
And it's so quick.
I'm done. I don't have to go back and do the sleeves.
And if you're really ambitious, you can block your sleeves before your body's finished too, and be seaming them while your body's blocked. Yeah. Which, like, genuinely, I've never managed. Not even once.
But theoretically, it's possible.
Theoretically, you can do it.
And something that you can do.
So yeah, so that is this installment, I believe, of Ethan and Deanna's Excellent Knitting Adventure. We will be coming back to it. probably to talk more about every piece as we go.
And we hope that if you are into this project and you've got some advanced knitting skills, that you'll join us online and maybe share your projects with us over Instagram or Facebook or even on our Ravelry group.
Yeah, please do get in touch with us.
And you'll see on the screen what our hashtags are. So make sure to use those hashtags, and that will help us keep track of everybody that's joining us in this virtual knit along.
So I guess kind of to wrap up the show today, normally this is the part in most podcasts where they thank all the people. So I guess we're gonna thank our video editor, Cody, who's gonna have to go through and put this all together. You're gonna see a beautiful finished product. It was not like that when we made it.
That was Cody.
I'm gonna thank Deanna for being an excellent co-host and for agreeing to do this crazy thing with me.
Aw, thanks, Ethan. And I'm gonna thank Ethan for being kind of the impetus to get this started and using all of his brain activity to come up with a lot of these great ideas.
Thank you. And we will see you on our next installment of the podcast and of Ethan and Deanna's excellent knitting adventure.
Great. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
See ya.